Hello, dear friends. We will look today at the diary of Lieutenant Brand, an officer of the Wehrmacht. His diary goes from June 28, 1943, the year he considers the darkest year in all German history. So now let us begin. October 7th. We changed our positions just before midnight and held down near the village of Ovotsko, close to the Dnieper River. It was a very restless night, for the Russians evidently noticed our movements. Their gunnery and mortars were shooting intensely. The German artillery did answer from time to time quite successfully. October 8th. A comrade got a Spanish newspaper with all sorts of interesting reports, but there was very little news of solace. What I also read were some completely new opinions about Hess, Hitler's order to persuade England to struggle against Russia. Those things fit well with our extremely short-sighted politics. The opposite action, the establishment of a strong contractual relationship with the Soviets, would have rather resulted in an alliance with Britain. The accuracy of this statement is yet to be proven. The children and the fools were carrying out the politics. They were fitting Machiavelli's policy to themselves, and it, in fact, does not fit them at all. The Florentinian demanded, first of all, greatness, clarity, conscience, and consistency. In political terms, the British are still better than we are. Since 1939, we have been constantly misunderstanding and undervaluing their fanatical will to eliminate. To this day, our nation still closes its eyes to the inescapable threat that is coming from the East and from the West. The result is a Germany that has been ruined. We have been playing with fire too long and thinking that it only lights up for us. It was a consequence of Goebbels' propaganda, which victimized our people and government rather than other countries. So long we have been given a false picture of the world and all sorts of things, that we have begun to accept our illusions as the truth. The Russians were very active last night and tonight. That was, in the real sense of the word, a hell of a thing. 2 days now we are digging dugouts and trenches and building positions at a breakneck pace. On the other hand, they did not protect us from artillery and a lot of Russian mortars. Unfortunately, 3 men out of service again. October 10th. There was a big Russian offensive late yesterday evening. Our forces were under heavy fire from artillery and mortars. The Russian infantry never showed themselves at all, while our soldiers behaved very nervously and fired like crazy even when there was nothing in sight. This foolish habit has been instilled in them by previous orders in the battalion. I was forced to crawl from dugout to dugout to at least give some sense of calm to the soldiers. There is a spirited artillery activity today towards Zaporozhye. People say we began to blow up everything there and we gave away our fortification before the bridge. Oh, not again! In that case, our situation here will be even more critical. And where will we end up in the winter? After all, the potential of the attacking enemy must end up somewhere, and it must happen here, on the Dnieper. October 15th. I had an encounter with Massenbach yesterday morning. Since I did not want to carry out any unnecessary reconnaissance, I reported to him all my observations about the Russian positions, but he wanted more confirmation. In the end, we decided to send a reconnaissance with my participation. When I brought him to our last positions, he gave the order to send the reconnaissance without my participation. I was furious because I had to obey him, and that with my green novices, my preparations were most thorough, and against my will, I sent them out. I kept an eye out with a machine gun for further events. They soon found themselves under enemy fire, as I had expected and predicted. My best machine gunner fell, seriously wounded. The rest of them ran back. Nothing he could do about the recruits. Today at 2 a.m., the 2nd Battalion's assault operation happened in front of my company's area. We were providing fire support. It continued for a good and a half hour and failed again. Similar stories only cause unnecessary losses, which we no longer allow ourselves to make. The people's credibility is rapidly lost. Besides, any operation with soldiers of the 5th year of the war is very dangerous. They do not have a good fight. They are almost unable to be forced to attack. They are very demoralized. Zaporozhye is given up. Our situation has become extremely worse. Now the Russian has even more guns and mortars to relieve. They are already very restless. If only I could have at least one good non-commissioned officer. October 18th. From the day before yesterday, I am in charge of both my unit and the neighboring company on our right. With the heavy losses we suffered, the lack of officers feels very much. Unfortunately, I do not have any non-commissioned officers except those who are useless. So I have to do everything by myself. I have one Feldwebel, who has to be persuaded when firing starts, another, an attendant, and is transferred only because of a misconduct. Among my 3 non-commissioned officers, one is a master-at-arms, another a clerk, and the third was in the administration of Poznan for 4 years of the war. Within a few days, the Russians slowly moved the front forward, and now they are settling in a cornfield about 200 meters away from us. They are continuously pulling up new forces and reinforcing themselves. Therefore, it would be high time to remove the fortification in front of the bridge again, but it does not look like that at all for now. Their artillery and mortars are very powerful again. The noise of tanks on this shore is already being heard. October 22nd. At our neighboring units on the right, the Russians managed to break through. To liquidate this breakthrough, it was necessary for me to engage my last reserves. Sadly, it was not without losses. The neighboring company, given to me, causes a lot of trouble because not only are there not enough non-commissioned officers, but the soldiers are extremely apathetic and lazy. Even during a big advance, I could only make some of them act. Certainly, I cannot think of sleeping at night under such circumstances either. According to the deserters, there are about 5 Russian divisions on our fortification in front of the bridge, and they are now reinforced and are going to advance again. They are wasting endless ammunition and bombarding us from dawn to dusk such that we cannot put our heads out of our trenches. As we hear it, there is no hope of removing the fortification this year. The losses we suffer each day, we can estimate when our unit will be completely wiped out. From the early morning until late night, I run around the positions, pushing and encouraging the men. We have to make it through, and we will make it through. But how we escape from this wood, my mind is almost blank. October 23rd. At 11 a.m., after several hours of preparation, which we tried to prevent while observing it, the Russians began a big offensive. At the neighboring units on the right side, they managed to break through on a wide front. The right half of the company given to me also began to give up their positions. The Russians were advancing in tight lines. Some of our machine guns were out of service due to continuous shooting. Some of the soldiers were scared and fled. The Russians ran into our woods in crowds until I and 2 or 3 soldiers managed to stop it. We suddenly realized also that there were Russians in front of us, no further than 30 to 50 meters ahead of us. Covered by the tanks, they were digging trenches and shelters desperately. The following situation was critical. The only thing I was glad of was that I was able to get to my right flank at that decisive moment and begin to act. With scolding and screaming, I managed to get some of the men into the dugouts, so we held at least the edge of the forest. Our neighboring company was not so fortunate. Their right flank was still bared. The Russians had broken through the right flank on a wide front. To make matters worse, we got about 100 Russians in the rear. To the east and to the south there is the Dnieper. The road to the west is blocked. We cannot rely on big counterattacks. We do not have sufficient reserves. So the motherland moves away from us more and more. The night is very black again. I hope the Russian is not going to advance anymore. We have just received an order to drop everything we cannot take with us as soon as possible. That means another offensive. Poor Germany. There is too much. Impossible to bear it any longer. All has its limits. Oh, those stupid politicians who, in the 5th year of the war, make our people and army suffer so badly. What exhausting it is, and how much it costs to sacrifice again. The diary is interrupted. His fate is unknown. Was he killed, captured, or missing? We unfortunately have no such details. This is all for today. Please support this video with a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Goodbye, and see you all soon.